Hello everyone and welcome back to Crafts by the Bow. Today I was looking through all of my little scrap bins, and at a certain time when my scrap bins are looking about half full or more, I decide to take bits out and make cards with bits that I've got left over. And one of the things I do like to make are these kind of little cards where you just use scraps of DSP, make a pattern. As you can see, this is a very old DSP mixed with some not Stampin' Up stuff. And it's an old card, but I just keep it to remind me how to do patterns. Now for on stage, I used some of the scraps of the DSP from the Nature's Poem suite. You can see this is all of the paper from there. And this is the card that I'm going to make today, but I'm going to use the Share What You Love pieces of scrap that I have. I've made quite a few cards in the last little while, and this is just one of them, the little stable fold card. And I have scraps of all of these papers. So I just thought I would show you what I do with them because it's a really economical card. Now, these are the kind of scraps that I have left. Bits where I've cut out flowers, strips. I think this was off the Not So Impossible card that I had left. And what I tend to do is to cut them into 1/4-inch strips. Sometimes I'll cut them as I go along and just pop them in my bin, but sometimes I'll find a piece of card or a few pieces of DSP and then decide what my card's going to look like depending on the DSP that I've got. So what I've started already is I've cut a card base at 11 by 4 1/4, and I've scored it at 5 1/2, folded it in the middle, and I've already made the inside. And I used different colours of greens. I've got the Mint Macaron and the Tranquil Tide. The Tranquil Tide is cut at 5 1/4 by 4. The Mint Macaron is cut at 5 by 3 3/4, and the Whisper White at 4 3/4 by 3 1/2. And I've just added one of the little 1/4-inch strips inside as well. Now, to make these, it's so simple. I'll just move my chair in a bit. I start off with a little piece of basic black, and this is 4 1/8 by 2 7/8, but you can make it whatever size you like. I just happen to have some little pieces of black card already cut, and it happened to be 2 7/8 wide. So I just sort of thought, right, that's the size it's going to be, and then this is going to be 4 1/8, just to make it an even size for when I'm layering. And then I collected some of the bits of DSP, and as I say, they're 1/4-inch strips. And I decided on a colour theme, which was going to be the greens, so the Tranquil Tide and the Mint Macaron. And to start off, all you do is choose a piece of the DSP that you want. You put, let's start a little piece actually. I'm going to have this side showing, and I always like to start with a corner. So just, there we go. So I like to start and cover a corner right over first, just like that. And then I'll take my paper snips and I'll just cut on the back along the line of the card. And then I know I've got my first piece in. I don't have to worry about jiggling the piece about or trying to make it even. I know that's my starting point, and that's the line I'm going to use. And what I do next is just choose one of the pieces. I should cut some of this up. I put Fast Fuse or Tombow on the back. I like to use Tombow because you can just wiggle the pieces round a little bit if you need to. And then I just layer them, carry on with the same angle, and I leave a little black gap in the middle. Cut this piece off. Don't throw any of these little pieces away because you can probably fit them in on a corner later on. Okay, and let's try one more. Let's put one of these little brown there, not quite long enough, but this one is. So let's put a little bit of this in. It doesn't have to be pretty pieces of DSP. It doesn't have to be a set pattern, just whatever you want. You see, as you go around, you just keep cutting off the little pieces. And then from here, I would think, right, I'm going to change the way the strips go. So I might want to put a piece in like this, or I might want to start at the corner, but I'm actually going to start in the middle with this one. You'll find the way that works for you and which pattern you like as well. There we go. Just cut that piece off. And it does quickly build up. And it's a really thrifty way of making a card. And, you know, we all need thrifty ways to make things sometimes. Let's use one of these. Put it on here next to this one. Leave a little gap. Oh, now look, that isn't going to be quite big enough. And I should have had Tombow there, shouldn't I? So I'm going to cut a little piece off here and I'm just going to add it under there. So yeah, I didn't measure that very carefully. But no problem. Let's stick it under there. Nobody will be able to tell. There we go. Put that one away. And then I'll go for one of these again. And sometimes I'll have 3 or 4 different papers. Sometimes I'll have 5. I might use little pieces of card that fits in the same colour as well. So whatever you've got, just use it up. Okay. So then carrying on for this, I'd probably start going this way again with my pieces and just carrying on cutting. Okay, now I do have one that I've already finished and I will finish that one later. So I've got one here, look, that I've already finished. All the little corners are finished. Oops, take that little bit of glue off. Okay. Now, to get the little border round the edge, I always put them onto a slightly bigger piece of black card. Let's see. And this piece of black card is 4 1/4 by 3. And it just gives you that tiny little edge. See, and just that tiny, tiny edge, but it makes it look like you've worked really hard and cut all your angles, and of course you haven't. Let's see, tiny little border all the way around. There. Okay. Now you might remember from when I made this card, I cut a piece of ribbon because I was going to put a piece of ribbon across and I decided not to. Well, I've taken this piece of ribbon out of my scrap box because I might put it over this one. Haven't quite decided. I'm not quite sure yet. But what I am going to do is just do my 2 layers. And this one is mint macaron in 4 7/8 by 3 1/8. And the Tranquil Tide I cut up 4 1/8 by 3 1/4. So let's just stick this onto here. Oh. Sure. Sorry, I'm not sure you can see that in the middle. Make sure we've got a nice little border. It will only be a tiny border. Okay, so let's see. Am I going to put the ribbon on or leave it off? I'll put it on this time. So I'm going to put some fast fuse on the back. What you need to decide is whether you want this for the top, this for the top. I've also made cards where it went landscape, but this one is definitely going to be portrait, and I'm going to put my little piece of tranquil tide ribbon on here. So you see, even though I cut it the other day and didn't use it, it has come in. Keep it in your scrap box. It will come in for a project. Okay. And that's just one piece of tranquil tide ribbon with a tiny little knot tied over it as a second piece of ribbon. Okay, and let's put some more fast fuse on here. And we'll put it onto our green layers. I will put a little sentiment on. I do have some sentiments saved as well, because usually I ink up and sort of stamp 2 or 3 sentiments before I decide what I like. I'm going to attach this to the black layer, and I like this black layer because I think it makes it almost look like a picture frame, and sort of the picture pops out of it a little bit. And the black is cut at 4 by 5 1/4. So there will be quite a nice border in the centre of this. There we go. And then we'll go back to the card front and attach that to the card front. So you can see how just using up scraps and little bits and pieces, you can make a really nice card. Let's attach this one. Okay, it's starting to come together. Now, I did have in my box, from when I was making the note cards and things, I did have a few little sentiments, and I think I only want a small one because I've got the ribbon on. I've got some thank yous and a hello. So I'm going to cut a couple out with my 1 1/4 inch punch and see which one I really like best. And these sentiments were from the Eastern Palace set, and so with the little stamp with the dots on as well, that was from the same set. And I'm not quite sure which one I'm going to use. There we go. And I've got my 1 1/2 inch punch for a backing and a few little pieces, little scraps. I'm not sure which colour I'm going to cut it in yet. So this is the 1 1/2 inch punch. Oh, I don't know. Let's have a look. Oh, yeah, just cut it out in that colour. And I'm going to cut one in this colour and see which we like best. Now the Tranquil Tide might be a little bit dark because most of my little scraps have got Tranquil Tide ink. Let's try it on the one that's black with, I think it's mint macaron on there. Oh, let's see if it looks better with mint macaron here. No, I think that blends in a little bit too much. So let's go back to this. I could try it at the other side, but no, I think I like it over there better. And with just a little thank you. Yep, I think I'm going to go with that. So we'll attach this to the little green Tranquil Tide circle. And I think I'm going to pop it up on a dimensional or two. There we go. There we are. Now, I don't ever use pieces of DSP and specially just cut them to make these cards. They are always made with leftover pieces. But if there was a particular paper that you wanted, you could certainly cut it up and make it that way. Now, I've got a few of these little Share What You Love artisan pearls, and I think they'd go with these colours on here. So I might choose one of the other colours and not the green. Let's just try the pink on there. Yep, I'm going to go with one on there. And I might just pop one on the ribbon at this side. I could put it over here or over here. I might put it in that little flower. There we go. So there you are, a very quick card, just using scraps and sentiments that you might have punched out already, the piece of ribbon that I was going to use last week, and keep everything. Don't throw any of your little bits and pieces away. I'm actually not loving that on there, so I'm going to move it and put it on one of the flowers, I think. Maybe I'll put it on this little flower here instead. Okay. So a very quick and easy little card. Now, I did have a lady that when she watched the video of me making this, she said that she didn't like the colours that I'd used. They weren't her colours, and that's just fine. But remember, with Stampin' Up, you can choose any colours from our DSP. I could have chosen like a rich raspberry for the card, or one of the pinks, maybe something like the Berry Burst. Just looking to see if I've got a piece here. Yeah, so I could have made it with the Berry Burst instead of the green, and it would have looked just as pretty. You don't have to cut these flowers out that are in the green if you don't like the green. You could choose, let me see, you could choose the pink flowers from here, or you could use an orange paper like the New Grapefruit Grove or Calypso Coral and cut these ones out. So don't ever think, oh, there's a card she's made, I don't like that colour, so I'm not going to make it. Just use whatever you have and whichever colours you like. Okay, so thank you very much for watching me today. I hope you'll give the little scrap card a try. There are lots and lots of pictures on Pinterest of other people who have tried this method and different patterns to follow. I just like to be a little bit random, but for some people it works if you have 90 degrees between your pieces and build it up almost like a windmill. That looks really pretty too. So give it a try and post a picture of the card that you make. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.